The militant group Hamas handed over the remains of 2 more captives held in Gaza, bringing the total to 12 of 28. Hamas says they face difficulties recovering all the bodies. Tensions remain high as Israel claims violations of the ceasefire. Sir, claiming and continuing disagreement on ceasefire, we can see. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SCTV's International Affairs. My name is Rashid Kanchon. I will be your host. I have a very distinguished gentleman, John Dalton, international consultant who is very, very experienced on international issues. I have our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pant on the studio, and from Washington we have Norman Flatt Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent. Let me begin from Shamsul Alam Pantho, who has more topics, more issues, more breaking news, more updates in his hand right this moment.
Well, a very good afternoon to all our viewers, and of course Mr. Dalton, who joins us in the studio, and Norman Flatt Barnes joining us from Washington, D.C. Let me first begin by saying that millions gathered in the U.S. for the No Kings rallies voicing opposition to President Donald Trump and his policies. These rallies come amid a government shutdown and also whilst deployment of federal troops in various parts of the country. Alongside, the interim administration in Kabul has claimed that Pakistan had carried out late-night strikes into the province of Afghanistani province of Paktika, as the officials from the two sides are set to hold talks in the Qatari capital of Doha. And in a change of events, Russia claims Moscow and Washington have begun discussions of constructing a Putin and Trump tunnel, which is aspiring to connect the two continents.
Let me go to Washington. Norman is there. Norman, do you have anything addition or anything breaking or anything latest top news stories going through the world's media? Norman.
Good morning. And yes, the No Kings rallies across the United States and Europe has brought significant attention on to the situation here in the United States. It's apparently the United States, the citizens, the latest polls that came out was showing that 58% of the Americans disapprove of the Trump administration and how they're handling issues here in the United States. Everything from the tariffs, the militarization, and how they appeared or how they are moving towards a more authoritarian type of leadership. So this is a trend that is going to, I believe, continue, get more intense, and put more pressure on the government on understanding that the people are not happy with the way the government is moving forward, and they will not stand by and tolerate it. So that's the biggest issue, and we have an alert from the U.S. government, State Department, that in Trinidad, tensions are high in the Caribbean, and they are warning and alerting American citizens to be on caution.
All right, we want to understand what is No Kings movement from John Dalton.
Well, that's good, thank you. I'm not a king either, but good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Nice to see you again, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and nice to be here. Well, the No Kings movement really started with Chuck Schumer in the United States Senate, who presented a bill trying to define the areas where Donald Trump had violated the law and had extended his powers irrationally, I mean, without any kind of congressional approval. And he was acting more and more like King George, who was the subject of the 1776 American Revolution. And all of these rallies are being held throughout the United States, and as Norman indicates, in several European countries as well, to protest the fact that Donald Trump is bypassing Congress, is acting independently, is violating even court orders as they have come down, and is acting much like a king. And Americans have this visceral distaste for the whole idea of a king because we select our president. It's not a ritual monarchy as such. So this pressure that's building, as Norman has indicated, this pressure which is building from within the population itself is rejecting the idea of unilateral decision making, and Donald Trump acting without the authority of Congress. Even the shutdown is an example of that. But there are so many others where he has simply ignored restraining orders, has ignored the fact that there are laws, the Posse Comitatus Act, that prevent him from militarizing the army to go into cities. He's just acting as a rogue element, irrespective of American Constitution and law. We'll see what happens.
When he came in power, he says he doesn't like to see sheikhs, sultans in Arabian countries. He said it several times. I heard it from different American outlets. Now he is doing the king's behavior. I have one more question to you, then I'll go to our international affairs commentator. Sir, what core democratic values does the No Kings movement claim to defend, and how does it frame its opposition to Donald Trump's leadership style?
Well, what they're defending is the rule of law. And America is predicated on the rule of law. No man is above the law, no man is below the law. And this whole principle with somebody who can act independently without consideration of the rule of law and can simply violate the constitutional provisions of the separation of powers, can violate the legal provisions regarding what the restrictions are on and states' rights to police their own affairs. Those are the three kind of fundamental issues that are being tested by Donald Trump. And I think that it's correct to have this No Kings Act, but it is widespread across the United States, as Norman will attest. It's like thousands of independent rallies are being held today across the United States. And we hope it has some effect on the congressmen themselves who have to vote.
All right, let me go to Shamsul Alam Pantho, our international affairs commentator. Sir, how has the movement managed to mobilize millions of people across all 50 states in the United States, and what strategies contribute to its peaceful, coordinated protest?
Well, thank you once again. And of course, you see United States of America. I was there for the better half of 3 weeks, and even when I was in Washington, D.C., I could see how the National Guard was protecting entrances to the metro station there, various public monuments, public museums, the deployment of national troops as if it were some kind of military warfield against unknown enemy. But in this case, I have seen how the regular citizens have voiced their distaste of having such installments in public places. But according to various media outlets, over 2,000 demonstrations were held in all 50 states. Of course, this is to challenge, if not the administration. Various times we've seen how the courts in the country had to oppose Donald Trump's decision making in the betterment of the people. So once again, this demonstration is currently happening. We have not seen or heard any kind of report whether they have been met with violence as of yet. But it just signifies that authoritarian leadership cannot be allowed in the United States of America.
All right, Norman, would you mind to explain in what ways could the No Kings protest influence public opinion, voter turnout, or political discourse ahead of future US elections? Because we have seen in different medias hugely criticized by Donald Trump's actions, reactions, and movements.
Yes, as we are witnessing, the people of the United States has finally decided to act. This action, even though it's subtle, peaceful in nature, is very prominent. It is giving the current administration a taste of what is planning in the future. What's happening is that the people will no longer sit back and endure these illegal, unconstitutional acts of the administration. The people will come out, they will continue to come out, they will bring their discourse to their elected lawmakers and pressure them to make decisions in terms of what is constitutionally correct. The current administration has a strategy of act first, you correct me later, or the courts will decide what we can do or what we can't do. The people of the United States has decided, in addition to communicating with other parts of the world, that we are now going to let our administration know that we have a say in what's going on, and we're not going to stand by while you change things, change the Constitution, and destroy what we stand for.
All right, let me know one thing from John Dalton. He has experience regarding the American law enforcement agencies' behavior. Sir, how have government officials or law enforcement agencies responded to the movement, and what does that reveal about the current state of civil liberties in United States of America?
Well, it's pretty much down political lines. I think most of the governors, led by Governor Pritzker from Illinois, but most of the governors in Democratic states, like Gavin Newsom also in California, oppose the imposition of these military rule in their cities within their jurisdictions. They are adamant about it. Southern governors, in fact, have invited, the governor of Arkansas has invited Trump to mobilize the military and National Guard to come in and address issues of crime in their areas. But as he's pointed out, it's an invisible crime message. There's no manifestation of increased crime. Crime is down in the District of Columbia. Crime is down in Chicago and in Illinois. And so Trump is making up this sort of boogeyman to try to frighten the American people into voting for the Republican Party, because they are the party of law and order, when in fact they're the party of disobeying the law and creating disorder. So this is what's happening right now. I think it'll sort its way out. Most governors recognize that there is a separation between states' rights and federal rights, and they try to defend those as much as they can. Police forces in the United States are very, very competent, well-trained, properly equipped, and they can manage their own affairs. What's interesting, one thing in Portland, Oregon, you notice that the people in Portland, Oregon are mocking the military. They're dressing up like turtles and they're dressing up like frogs, and they're dancing in the street to make it look how foolish it is to intervene in civic affairs in that city.
All right, I know Shamsulam Pantho is very keenly following this movement. Can the No Kings movement sustain its momentum and translate mass demonstrations into long-term political or institutional change? If so, how?
In order for it to bring an institutional change, we must look towards the midterm election that is coming up. But more than 2,000 demonstrations that have taken place, hundreds of thousands of people taking part in this No Kings rally held across various states in the United States of America. It only signifies the last 10 months of the Donald Trump administration and how much or so they have done for their own country. Of course, Donald Trump has initiated, as of recent, a very fragile ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, but I don't see any kind of new schematic in which he is more of the people's president. He has moved away from being the people's president, and that is what brings a very dangerous time for the United States of America.
All right, sir. Let me go to Gaza and Palestine issue. I mean, Gaza and Israel issue again. I want to talk to Norman Flood Barnes. My question would be very direct. A forensic examination of 120 Palestinian dead bodies returned by Israel reportedly revealed clear evidence of torture and possible organ theft. Very dangerous, Mr. Norman. My question is, what are the specific allegations being made regarding torture and organ theft, and what evidence has been publicly disclosed?
Yes, this is a very disturbing topic. I'm very shocked, but not surprised at the situation. It appears that the Palestinian officials and medical staff, particularly in the Nasser hospital, has reported that the returned bodies from Israel exhibit several signs of abuse and surgical inconsistencies. These inconsistencies consist of signs of torture, execution, examples of being blindfolded, hands bound behind their back, and signs of beating, strangulations, gunshot wounds to the head. These are inconsistent. They are consistent what we consider field executions. The other issues is really disturbing is organ theft concerns. Reports cited that abdominal, they found that bodies stomachs and abdominals were stitched up in a manner which showed that organs may have been taken out, and we are concerned, medical officials are concerned about organ harvesting. This has been something that came up years ago, I believe in 2009, that Israeli people are looking at organ scan, eyes, corner harvesting of dead people, particularly the Palestinian. This is very disturbing. And of course, without the decomposition of the bodies were put in containers and bags and stuff that accelerated the decomposition of the bodies. This is a concern. Issues like agencies like the International Criminal Court could be investigating this, the United Nations, the International Committees of the Red Cross. These are areas that will be looking into this. And this is a situation where Israel response is basically saying that it's baseless and biased, but the physical evidence shows otherwise. So this is something that is very, very bad. I just say very bad. It reminds me of Nazi Hitler and the things they did back then. So it's ironic that this was done to them, and now they're being accused of doing the same thing to the Palestinian. So very concerning.
All right, Norman, I tell you my personal feelings. When I was receiving this news, I became very, very frustrated. This is 2025.
Yes.
The very ultimate civilization era, but at this stage we receive this kind of news that body parts or body organ is stolen by the country. Sir, I just want to know what mechanisms exist locally, regionally or internationally for investigation and holding parties accountable for such allegations in conflict zones. You have heard, this is a very disturbing news.
Oh, it's sickening, as a matter of fact. And I commend Norman did a very nice job of summarizing that. He ended on the note about comparing Israel's action to Nazi Germany. The very famous Dr. Mengele, who was a Nazi surgeon who would experiment on human bodies while they were under occupation. This is Auschwitz in some respect. The irony, of course, as Norman points out, is that they are doing exactly what they claim to be the victims of back in the day. And there's no question that the Palestinians and the Israelis will try to spin whatever situation they can find for their advantage against the other person. They hate each other. A deep-seated distrust and hate between the Palestinians and the Israelis is not going to be solved by any ceasefire or handshaking or signing of anything. This is going to have to be worked out definitely over time. Before this happened, Human Rights Watch had a report that the victims of the October 7th attack, that those victims were shown to have been murdered and raped and suffering the same sort of consequences as were reported for the Palestinians. So this idea about mutilating captive bodies or killing people out of revenge who are not combatants is characteristic of the savagery that occupied that zone during this war. and Human Rights Watch can take a look at it. I mean, the UN can follow up and take a look at it. I don't really know what legal consequences there can be. This is a war zone after all. But it's disgusting and sickening, and it is not human. So Norman is very correct. Thank you, Norman.
Absolutely. I want to get the take of our international affairs commentator. He's very closely monitoring, following and watching this event. I will expect the answer of this question I designed for him. How might this development affect the broader dynamics of the Israel-Palestine conflict, including ceasefire negotiations, humanitarian accesses and international diplomacy? Because I remember in Thursday's show you have said clearly and boldly that this is a fragile ceasefire.
And I still claim as so that it is still very so fragile. But according to the news, these, as you were discussing and as Mr. Dalton and Norman was saying, that they hate each other, and all of these crimes that they are is no less short of atrocious activities that they have conducted in the human body. And of course, the comparison to Auschwitz and during the Nazi regime is so very uncanny and realistic in this consensus. But of course, the role of the mediators, Egypt and Qatar, and of course as well as Turkey and nonetheless the US, the roles of these countries would be to look towards how Gaza can be rebuilt, if not reconstructed. But that is still a very far-shot thing to do. Right now, it remains as a hostage swap over, dead body swap over. So these are the activities that are happening between the two sides. But there has not been any kind of openness towards aid delivery, and all the aid delivery mechanisms are still at a halt. So the death toll that we used to know of 67,000, there may be more, which is not being reported as this ceasefire is still holding.
You know, I have read Winston Churchill's one definition of negotiation. If you decide with open heart to do something, negotiation, how much roads you walk don't count, be my closer. I really appreciate that things. Both the country, I mean both the nations, Israel and Hamas, has to be open-minded and come closer to forget the revenge, to come forward to activate the ceasefire and peace in Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, time has come to go for a short commercial break. But when I'll be back, I have lot of details on United States, I mean Donald Trump's administration shutdown, federal worker firings and consequences among the general Americans.
Luxury in Dhaka. সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The US government shutdown entered its third week, crossed 21 days. A federal court issued an injunction against the administration's plan to fire thousands of federal workers. On the other side, other related developments include possible changes to the Voting Rights Act, visa revocations for foreigners over social media comments, and covert CIA operations in Venezuela. Norman, I want to begin from you. What is the latest update on this negotiation inside United States to save the federal workers' daily life, to pay them the paychecks, because things are going more complex? Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer is not compromising. On the other side, White House is with the Republicans, Congress is under Republicans, Senate under Republicans, but they are not able to fight with Democrats. Therefore, this shutdown. What is your comment on that, and what is the latest updates?
The latest update is there is no updates. They stagnated. The I'll use the word, I like to use the word, mostly constipated. That's more of a better term. Both parties have decided to dig in deep, and they're not going to give up their positions. The Republicans believe that their plan will prevail, and the Democrats and the country will initially submit. However, as we are seeing and witnessing with the No Kings movement, the people, hopefully the Democratic Party is supporting, we will not tolerate this type of behavior. Basically, it's considered abuse, authoritative, and the congressmen must make a decision on how they're going to respond to this. We have an election coming up, and it's critical for their position. They have to make a decision. The people has decided that we will not deal with the current administration and their tactics of jobs and whatever. Our congressmen, on the same time, they are fighting each other because they believe their position is so strong that they cannot change. Consequently, the people and the government has been stagnated. So we will continue this battle, this sandbox fight between our current lawmakers until it get to a point where someone blink.
Why Speaker Mike Johnson is continuously blaming the Democrats? He's the guardian of the House.
He has to blame someone. They have a belief, they're in a position, they don't want to look weak. We dealing with egos. We dealing with people who are currently elected to run our country and make decisions for the people, but they're making decisions based on their personal egos. So the House and the Senate and the Congress has to make a decision. They have to make a big boy, I call a big boy, grown up adult decision. Right now, we're dealing with a bunch of adolescents.
All right, one tweet I can mention, one X handle post I can mention by one Democrat leader. He said, America is currently directly engaged with 4 wars. I have seen it. Later I have gone to the comment. I have seen war between the federal government shutdown. This is number 1. I mean Democrat and Republicans in one number. Second war is Donald Trump is against the American people deploying National Guards. Third war is with China, economic war. And fourth war is America is going to start with Venezuela. This 4 war America is fighting right now. So I want to ask you, what are the root causes of this current US government shutdown, and which parts of the government are mostly affected?
Well, thanks for referencing the 4 wars. I would simply say that the only war that Donald Trump ever fought was the boot war. So that's his area of expertise. Look, if you break it down to Democrat, Republican, you miss the point in some ways, okay? The fact is, you must look at whether or not we're looking to protect the healthcare opportunities of individuals and food for poor children compared to tax cuts for the rich, the billionaires, and other people in the government. Phrase it like that, and you forget about Democrats, Republicans. That's not the issue. The issues is, are the rich going to get richer at the detriment of the poor people who cannot possibly afford health care unless these subsidies are continued? That's the choices that have to be made. And Republicans, of course, want to protect the big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts that are in it. The Democrats are saying, hold on here, hold on a second. Unless there are subsidies, okay, the private health premiums that people will have to pay will triple. And there will be millions and millions of people who do not have health care in the United States. This is an enormous risk to the welfare of everybody in the country. And so that's the battle. It's not just Republican, Democrat, it's about rich versus poor, vulnerable versus the rich. This is the fundamental battle that's going on. These are proxies. The Democrats, Republicans are proxies for this fight. That's what we should be looking at. And somebody has to say, we stand with the poor, we stand with the vulnerable. That's the job that Democrats have always taken.
Right, sir. We are watching this event from far, but our international affairs commentator was in the front line when the shutdown begins. You are in Washington. I still remember you joined the show and you have said that Washington is facing, or the entire American federal workers are facing difficulties. Sir, I want to ask you, what are the economic and social cost of this shutdown and how might they play out of it continues?
One of the venues that I have observed directly was during my flight from Washington DC into Miami, and I could visually see how the TSA agents, if not the people who are handling the airport, they have been very demotivated, and they're you can see them that they're doing this job and they know that they won't be paid and if not furloughed in the future. But one of the important aspects that you were asking me, how it has an effect on the economy, of course it's a slowdown. People are not eager to move around or travel between the 50 states in America. Not only so, if you were to be a foreign tourist, you would not necessarily pick the United States for a holiday, given that the federal government is going through a shutdown. But aside from this, even the last time it happened, it was a tenure of 30 or so more days.
33 days.
33 days. Whether or not this time around it will extend that timeline and set a new record. But we see increasingly how Donald Trump and his policies include the layoffs of millions of people from their workplaces. This will, of course, have an impact on the social dynamics of people and the living standards of people. We know that how the big, beautiful bill will end a lot of these medical packages for the regular citizens of America. And of course, as Mr. Dalton was saying, it will remove, people will not have the opportunity to garner such medical benefits from the state itself. So once again, it's a very sensitive situation right now in the United States of America.
All right, as Norman had the time limitation, I want to do him a legal procedure. I'm sure Norman will give a very good explanation on it. On what legal basis did the court block the planned firings of federal workers, and what are the broader implications for execute power? I want to add one more thing. What is the legal procedure of ending this shutdown? Is there any legal authority of the Supreme Court?
Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to talk in depth about it, but we have a real situation, conundrum. We have a situation where we have a court system that is a proxy to the Trump administration, and they believe that the Trump administration has precedence, has authority, and they will eventually prevail. The federal courts have issued temporary injunction to delay, slow down the actual firing of the mass firing of employees. They, you know, they only has this situation where they can slow it down, they can delay, they can basically not stop it but delay it. Eventually, the executive office will get their way. The court system cannot stop the president and his agenda, but they can make it difficult. They can slow it down and delay it, but eventually these employees will lose the jobs. Things will be changed, and it has a political consequence, but the action of the Republican plan is to reduce the amount of government, slow it down, reduce it, and eliminate it. So the separation of powers, you know, we talk about Congress and the administration, but eventually the framework is for civil services to be reduced, and of course, people will suffer from this. It will be changes made, slowly, resisted,
All
but
right,
changes will
Norman,
come.
I really appreciate you for so many good things you have added to our show today. We really liked your journalism. Thank you very much. I wish you a good day. Sir, I just want to know from you, how might the shutdown or related policy actions, especially visa revocations, CIA operations, affect public trust, civil service moral, and international perceptions of US governance? Because ultimately, sir, this is the most powerful nation.
Yeah, well, the civil service morale is probably at its lowest. Everybody's a target unless they're in an agency which is protected by one of Trump's favored few, Hegseth and Patel and those guys. The people that are close to him and had loyal to those people will remain in their jobs. Norman is correct. There's a preliminary injunction which has been issued by in favor of the unions, which have brought a suit against the United States government for illegal dismissal. That will be appealed by the Trump administration to the next court and then appealed to the Supreme Court. And it's unlikely that the Supreme Court is going to take this up. If the settlement is reached, they'll say this is a moot point, no need for us to talk about it anymore. If in fact it goes to that point where the Supreme Court has to decide on this case, they will say that the president has the power to dismiss people, but that Congress has the power to appropriate money to pay their salaries if they like. So it's a little bit complicated, and it can kind of like be a little bit confusing. But Norman may be correct that anybody who's not a full-time civil servant, protected under the law, contractor, part-time employee, those people can lose their jobs and never get them back. So internationally, I think people have realized that whatever model the United States ever was of governance is long gone, that it's chaotic, that they are spiteful, mean-spirited people who are doing damage to the average American people in the name of power. And I mean, let's hope this does not long endure. But it seems to me that somehow or other the people now are starting to express not just their frustration, but their resistance. And I commend the thousands of No Kings Act protesters, and I ask them to keep it up until the next election.
I will go for a short commercial break, but I have received one very crucial information this morning from China Daily, the most popular newspaper or media house in China, that China is buying huge amount of gold from around the globe to de-dollarization successful. That can be our subject, along with the fire incident in Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport.
Private Limited. Logistics, parcel and courier service. 22 Roberts Lane, Singapore 218302. Phone 0065 629 24900. বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you heard on Saturday afternoon, October 18, yesterday, major fire broke out in the cargo section, cargo village of the Hazrat Shah Jalan International Airport. Different news are coming in news feeds. We could not independently verify all the news, but we want to discuss about this, sir. Over 30 to 36 firefighting units, fire service, air force, navy, civil aviation authority were mobilized to tackle the fire, but finally everything gone, burned. I just want to ask Shamsul Alam Pantho first, because he was following this event from beginning till now. Sir, my question would be how much and what type of cargo was lost or damaged, and what are the financial or insurance implications you are hearing, or what are you learning the latest about these huge incidents?
Well, it is not just one incident regarding Hazrat Shah Jalan International Airport. Before that, we see a towel factory burning up in the Chittagong economic zone as
Yes.
well. And that
Export
was,
processing zone.
Yes, the EPZ, export processing zone. So, and just immediately before that, a factory in Dhaka's Mirpur. So all of these incidences have one thing in common. It comes to a position of fire that is not really controlled. Of course, all of these three locations, whether or not there was adequate fire resources inside the building, if not a sprinkler system, if not detection system, these are all modern technologies which I'm sure the authorities will now think of otherwise, but it carries some kind of political significance. Let me take our viewers and you all back